Hi! Today, we're going to present you an excerpt from the Tartarus of Maids, a short story published by Herman Melville in 1855. It deals with the journey of a seed merchant who goes to a place that looks like hell to buy cheap paper for wrapping his seeds and sell them more easily. The passage under scrutiny is a description of this paper mill, where the roles are paradoxically reversed. There, blank-looking girls are feeding iron animals, the machines, that is, like slaves tend to their masters.
Seated before a long apparatus, strung with long, slender strings like any harp, another girl was feeding it with foolscap sheets which, so soon as they curiously travelled from her on the cords, were withdrawn at the opposite end of the machine by a second girl. They came to the first girl blank, they went to the second girl ruled. I looked upon the first girl's brow, and so it was young and fair. I looked upon the second girl's brow, and so it was ruled and wrinkled. Then, as I still looked, the two, for some small variety to the monotony, changed places, and where had stood the young fair brow, now stood the ruled and wrinkled one. Perched high upon a narrow platform, and still higher upon a high tall crown in it, sat another figure serving some other iron animals, while below the platform sat her mate in some sort of reciprocal attendance. Not a syllable was breathed. Nothing was heard but the low, steady, overruling hum of the iron animals. The human voice was banished from the spot. Machinery, that vaunted slave of humanity, here stood manily served by human beings, who served mutually and cringingly as the slave serves the sultan. The girls did not so much seem accessory wheels to the general machinery as mere cogs to the wheels.
A new order of machinery. Human beings thus seem to work for the machines as servants. Therefore, their humanity is slowly taken away from them. The only sound the narrator can hear is the humming of the machine, whereof the human voice is banished from the spot. Accordingly, if they cannot talk, they are dehumanized. They are nothing more than cogs in the wheel of the machine. And as the machine rules the paper sheets, it also marks the girl with wrinkles, which proves not only that they devoted their time to the machine, but also that they sacrificed their youth and innocence to them. Thereby, the human alienation, which shows human beings not only reduced to mere workforce, but also submissive to the machines, leads us to the supremacy of the machines, a new order where it is not longer human beings who control the latter, but the other way around.
The machines, on the other hand, are rising while human beings are decaying. They seem to be personified as they eat paper and give it back to the girls transformed, like after a process of digestion, which is characterized by rules on the paper. In other words, the machine rule everything. Yet, they are described as iron animals, line 61, which gives them a monstrous aspect at odds with the apparent order they create, but also make them represent nature in its way to regain its right over human. This revolution in the natural order, linked with the humanization of the machines, creates a rather uncanny atmosphere.
As the machines come to life, a whole new ecosystem seems to grow in the paper mill, creating an uncanny atmosphere. Indeed, the sheets travel from one place to another on a strip, as if it were a journey to find themselves, and at the end they are ruled. The use of curiously by the narrator highlights the strangeness of the place and actions. Furthermore, with the gradations high and still higher, space seems to infinitely growing as if it were a magical and out of reach. They obey the rules of the Tartarus underground, even though this is just a paper mill, or so it seems. Nonetheless, as if by magic, the machine forms into another instrument, a music instrument.
There is a kind of delicacy emanating from the machines because of the melodious sound they make. It can be seen with the strings on line 52, harp on line 52, and variety on line 67. Even the low, steady, overrolling hum, line 63, could stand for a brass instrument. With the brass instruments and the string instruments, it's like the machine had become an orchestra on its own. Moreover, the sheets of paper line 63 draw a parallel with the music sheets for the orchestra to play. The machine become thus a beautiful show, and the script become marvelous. It's a sort of tale. In this aspect, the machine lays in a world of order and beauty, possibly reminiscent of Baudelaire's Flowers of Evil.
There are, in the excerpt, a proliferation of references to Europe and the ancient East, which, mixed together, create an intertextual saturation. The title of the novel, The Tartarus of Maids, is an echo to Greek mythology because the Tartarus is one of the most dangerous monsters were locked up by Zeus. Then, the Tartarus is the paper mill and the girls themselves could be the monsters sidelined from the world. There is also a reference to a fantasized East with the presence of the Sultan, line 66. It evokes Orientalism, which was all the rage in Europe at the time. Furthermore, there is a reference to a less fantasy East, that is to say, Europe itself, as there is a parallel drawn between the paper mill and the Gothic castle in Germany earlier in the text. But this overload of signs and references is too obvious to be innocent. In fact, it conceals itself and adds up to a blank page, that is to say, a place to write a new, properly American literature.
The reversal of order, as well as interchanging girls that go from blank to raw without any real difference, symbolizes Americans creating their own culture in spite of their European roots. The new world is supplanting the old world and establishing its authority over the world, as a printer is printing lines on that blonde girl, seemingly virgin, but in fact already besmirched by the machine, that is to say, already besmirched by its roots. This infection, due to the impossibility for the Americans to be completely independent from the East, the pain of childbirth, rubs off on the writing itself. The text is characterized by what David Lodge calls good bad writing, that is to say by a style that seems too much or too little, but which in fact is elaborate. For example, there are repetitions, both in vocabulary and syntax. I looked up to, and so, they came, they went, which in fact imitate the stammer of a new literature rising from the ground as a newborn in search of itself in the middle of all the old world.
To conclude, if this excerpt only seems to deal with an alienated humanity serving machinery, in fact, this machinery seems to be brought to life in a magical way. A new age of American literature is created through the unorthodoxy writing of the author, constantly referring to the old Eastern world, using it to build the topoi of a new world's writing. We hope that this analysis was entertaining for you, and we wish you a very pleasant journey into the English literature.